Today, we're going to talk about making this little zine that I made. This is the, pre-done zine. We're going to make one on screen. This one is about affirmations. So I made this little zine in the art journal manner that I like. And I'm going to show you how to do it. It's made from one piece of paper. And the fun things about these are I left a lot of blank so you could write, anybody could write in them. So this is one piece of paper folded. You can see it. I'm going to put you overhead, so I'll show you the whole thing. So the fun thing about this is a lot of people make these zines to give to friends, acquaintances, give as gifts, whatever. There's a whole host of things you could do with these. But they take these and they scan them and print them. So you could take them to your local print shop, Staples, Office Max, those kinds of places. And you just have one sheet of paper printed out like this, and then you bring them home and fold them up and give them out as gifts. And we're going to talk about that. Or just give them out, or don't. Keep them for yourself. So this one is one that I made for me. I said this was my happy place. And I've used all kinds of art materials that I've had laying around. So this is the kind of drawing paper that I'm using. This is actually 11 by 14 inches, the one that I'm using today. You can use any size paper to do this. It will work the same, small, large, whatever. This would probably be a little more pricey to print because of the size of it. But you can bring this to a place like Staples, Kinko's, etc., and they'll print this for you. This is drawing paper that I'm using. It's not quite as heavy as cardstock. Definitely not as heavy as watercolor paper, but it's usable, and that's why I chose this today. You can use watercolor paper. It's a little heavy to do the bends, bending it. But it works. So we're going to start out here. I'm not sure you're going to be able to see everything I do, but you're going to fold this in half lengthwise, so the longest way. Now I have my bone folder here, bone folder. And you're going to try to get this even. Now I'm going to give you a little, for those of us that love perfection, this is the farthest thing from perfect because paper isn't perfect when it's cut. It usually varies in length and width, and there's nothing you can do about that. Absolutely nothing. So it's just like when you go try on a pair of jeans and a size 10 is not a size 10. So when they cut fabric for making clothes, it's a bunch of pieces of fabric laid on top of each other with the pattern on top, and then they cut the clothes, right? So the first one is the truest to size, and as you go down, they get larger and larger. So that's why you can go into a store and try on the same exact pair of jeans in the same exact size, and not one of them will fit you the same. It has to do with that laying, just like of this paper, when you lay the paper all together and they chop them in sections, not all of it will be the same size. So this, you're going to get this as much as possible close to the size, right? So we cut the lengthwise. We folded the lengthwise. Now I'm going to fold the shorter sides together. Excuse me. Again, you want to kind of line them up, the edges, so that they're sort of even. You'll be able to fix this later, and it won't matter as much because you're going to have them printed. So, okay, now we folded it the lengthwise. Now we folded it the widthwise. Now you're going to open it up, and you're going to fold one side into the center. I kind of leave a little bit of breathing room so it's not right necessarily up there. And then you're going to take the other side and you're going to do the same. Fold it right to the center. And you kind of want to play with the folds a little bit. Okay, so now you're going to open it up. So the short fold here. And what you're going to do, this is one piece of paper. Now, what we're going to do is we want to cut just this section. So it's actually, this is folded in half. So you're going to cut through 2 sections. Now, typically, you can just use your scissors. But today, I'm going to use my cutter. Now, what I'm going to say is I'm going to try to finagle this fold just a little bit because it's a little bit off. Again, no paper is going to be perfect. It's just the nature of the beast and how they cut paper. So I'm going to put this in my cutter. I'm going to make sure that that fold lines up with this little groove in my cutter. Now, you don't want to go all the way down this whole thing. You just want to go to the first fold here and cut the paper. So I'm going to do that. And that should be about right there. So you have this hole now in the middle of your paper. And that's what you're looking for. Now I can see, oh no, that cut. You can also do this with a X-Acto blade, which is totally fine. And then you're going to open this up and kind of, did I open it the right way? You're going to finagle it a little bit. So I probably just need to fold this a little bit right here to make it work. So if you are having a hard time making the zine work, so you basically now are just opened. You want to pop this like so, and you kind of want to figure out. Now here's what I'm talking about, not even, but later on you can try to do a little bit of folding. There's nothing we can do about that, and that's okay. So the thicker your paper, the more this is going to happen. Here's one that I made earlier, and I kind of finagled so there was none of those edges. I just kept working it. So I'm going to go to this one, which is also one I made earlier. And now we're just going to open this up. So now you want to figure out where your front page might be. Now, a lot of people number these, and you can certainly do that. So a lot of people, so half of this is going to be upside down and half of it will be right side up. So it just depends on where everything lays. So if you wanted to know that this is your front, this is your back, and you couldn't label your pages, right? So if you really needed to know, this is the top of this one, 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 and the top of this one. For me, I don't care about that. So you can see now that some of these are upside down. This is the front. I just start creating on this now. I don't worry about that. So I start getting whatever I'm going to use out of my art supply box, and I get going. So I might start now. You guys know that I love black. So I might start like this, just randomly drawing in spots. This is my Posca. So this is a fine line Posca, 0.7 millimeters, So that's what that is. So I start doing random marks with random things. You all know how I love my Stabilo all pencil. So that's what this is. So I just start wherever, making marks. And then I think about colors and what I might want to do. And I use white to get going. Sometimes I have some water here, just so you know. And sometimes I pull out a palette, and sometimes, like today, I don't really have room for a palette. So I'll just take some paint from the tube and I'll start spreading. And this is what I wanted to happen, right? I wanted to have the Stabilo all pencil kind of run. Now, the other thing I do sometimes, so I have this Liquitex gesso. It's a little bit thinner than the other thick gesso in the short jar that I've been doing. And this would do a similar thing, but this would be flat. That paint that I use is kind of not flat. So I would do this. And I might not worry about doing too much more. I might just let whatever's going to happen, happen. Now I just start playing. I just find the colors that I love, that I like, that I think I love, that I think I like, and I start putting things together. Now I brought my roller because we're going to play with that a little bit. So this is pink. Oh, that's way too much, but let's see if we can get some pink on here. And if I'm worried about it, I can rub this off on a piece of scrap paper. And actually, I'm trying not to make it too wet because earlier today when I did my prototype, I got everything really wet. And the zine wasn't real cool with the wet. So I don't worry about what the top, the front, or anything else is. I'm just trying to get some color down on my pages. I have a bunch of water-soluble Stabilos and Caran d'Ache crayons. I really wanted to get some yellow in here. Sometimes I feel like yellow's a good to look at. Hi, Sandy. How are you? Good to see you. So I put a little yellow. Again, I usually use a paint palette, but I have limited room when I do these things here on my desk. So I have also some white here. So if this is a little bright, I can tone it down, mix it with some white. And I might want a little of this yellow ochre. So if you don't have a lot of room on your desk and you're trying to do something like this, this is a great way. You just plop it on and worry about it later. So I'm just randomly spreading paint all over. Now, because you're copying this, if you wanted this to be a book for people that you would give away that they would write on. Now, I see that I've left a lot of white space up here, and I don't really want that. So I'm going to work at getting some color there. So because you would copy this, because this is how they're meant to be used, is to be copied like that, I think that if you wanted to leave white space, you could worry about that later, because you're going to the copier paper will be you can write on the copier paper. So I'm going to take a little water without trying to get this too wet, and I'm going to get this green to run because that's what those, now isn't that interesting? Those woodies are water soluble, and yet I don't see them running here. So I just, like I said, slap down paint and try to get things on the, now because I don't want to run my hair dryer while we're alive, oh, maybe I need a better brush. Try a different brush. Okay, so this is quite wet. So this is gonna, now you might want to erase your arrows so they don't show up before you start working or before you start getting paint on them, because they won't erase afterwards. I'm sort of not worried about it at this point, but just so you know, it is something to consider. So this is how I start. I wanted to add a little bit of orange, but I have to say that this orange is quite bright. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the orange in places very lightly. And then I'm going to add some white to it. So maybe some gesso. I don't know if it's too dry. It's so hot in my room that my guess is, yeah, the orange is pretty dry already. It's very hot upstairs in my office today. There's a lot of sunshine out. So if we wanted to cover up, I like to kind of knock things back with the white a little bit. So if you wanted to cover up the arrows, you probably could do it with, you know, a darker paint or what have you as you worked through this. And we're only decorating really this one side. We're not worried about the inside of it at all. Now, again, I see that I've got these edges that aren't really all that decorated. I don't know. I kind of feel like I want a little something on them. Oh, Sandy, I like the pink and the yellow combined. I love the green. I do. I agree with you. All right, so I have to take some time to clean this off because I don't want to ruin my brayer. So I have a baby wipe here. So some of it will stain. I'm not worried about the stain. I just won't want lumps of paint on here. And you can see it is coming off. So a baby wipe is pretty good. If I were heads up today, I would have brought some water in a tray and a wet towel to wipe off on this. So I need to clean off my brush. So I had a little idea. I have this So Flat. This is called So Flat. These paints are somewhat expensive. It's a flat paint, not shiny. And I got them as a Christmas present, and I love them. But this is how I would cover up the arrows if I wanted to. I didn't want to see them. Maybe adding some of this over where the arrows are. Nobody has to know why that is like that. And then maybe getting in some of that. Now, again, I like this paint. This is So Flat by Golden. it came as a gift, and it was a nice gift because it's quite pricey. Then I just rub this with my baby wipe because why not? And then if I don't like what happens here, anybody, can you guess where I'm going to go? I'm going to go to the white. I'm going to roll the white on. So I'm going to take a little of this and I'm going to put it here and here. And I'm going to kind of start rolling it with my brayer. And I love how these things then disappear into the background. Now, you could see that this is not really, I feel like it's not really melded to the background. So I just kind of take my baby wipe and do a little wiping. And that's that. And then I come over here because I think I want a little tiny bit of white there and that. How is everybody today? Yes, you are correct, Sandy. My family members take care of me. And that's where it came from. So that's what I do. I just tell people, give certificates to places like art places, or if they ask for a certain thing that I like, I tell them. I also have someone that quite nicely will gift me Happy Mail. So they'll send things through the mail. That's always a nice surprise, right? Okay. So now I wanted something festive. This probably looks very Eastery, and it's probably, so here's what it looks like so far. So I think I would want more decor on this, so I might spend a little time doing some other things on it, but that's how it's going to look. Now, on my prototype, I cut out some words. So this one is happy place, fragments of the soul. I like this on this page. What really matters. This one, see the possibilities everywhere. And I left these blank on purpose because when I print this, I want people to be able to write in this. I want this to be like a little mini journal. And the back, creativity takes courage. And I kind of loved the way this came out. Now this one's a little bit brighter than that one. Not bad. I might leave this, but I'm going to add more to it because I think it needs some black. I don't know about this back, really. But I just keep going until I'm happy with everything. So I'll do things like we have some, I brought these things along. I have some stickers I made that I might use, and I brought some washi tapes. Actually, I brought some washi tapes, and I brought some just good old-fashioned, what is this, masking tape. So let's think about gluing some things on. Oh, here's another couple of sticker sheets that I brought. So sometimes, as plain and boring as this tape may be, oh, I knew I had more of this. Sometimes this is a cool thing to have somewhere. So I'm going to, so this is the front. So maybe I want to put a little piece of masking tape on, just because maybe masking tape looks cool. No other reason. So there's this. Then I have all these pieces. So what I do is think about, and maybe there. So today I'm going to use, well, I was going to use my glue stick if I could find it. Glue stick. So somebody told me about this glue stick. I got this off of Amazon. It's pretty good. It's an Italian kind of, it's from Italy, I guess. And it is better than some of the other glue sticks that I've had. So now, forgetting that you're there, I want to get this down and I don't want ripples. So I'm going to start kind of this end curled under though, I think. Or did it? No, it curled under. Won't come undone though. Oh, there you go. Okay, so now this glue stick seems to work really well and seal down. So let's see. I didn't like the back. I wanted to add something to the back. Sandy said she likes the prototype. I kind of do too, Sandy. Kind of like that a lot. So I kind of like this little piece here. So let's try that. Put this here. Now, there's so much more we could do with this. I was just going for a happy spring look. I'm just rubbing my glue stick all over this so I can get this down. I think this way. Okay. And then maybe one of my stickers here on the back too. And then now I've got to figure out what I'm going to do inside the book. I felt like I wanted some more black pen. If I could find I hate when I do that. When I use something and I put it down and I have no idea where it went. I want to take this out of here. This is my brush that I don't want to leave in the water. So, oh, here it is. I knew it was around. Don't leave your brushes sitting in water because it will ruin them for sure. Okay, so now this I feel needs like a little black. So I like to do this sort of thing. Just to add something to it. And then maybe, I love this washi tape. I think I have to move my tapes. I think they get too hot up here and then they stick to each other. So let's go with these. So that's one. Then I have this one that has some writing on it. Actually, this ripped off earlier the wrong way. but I'm okay with that. Now, if I wanted to, I could do, if it felt like this was floating on top, I could put a little white paint over here. I'm just going to use my fingers and kind of make it feel like it's kind of anchored in there. So maybe I'll leave that like that. And maybe I'm going to write some sentiments on here. So I saved, let's see if I can find them. I saved some quotes. So I have, life is full of magic and serendipity. See the beauty in everything. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. And that's a Winston Churchill quote. I really liked that. Don't be pushed around by fears in your mind. Be led by the dreams in your heart. I loved that. That was by somebody named Roy T. Bennett. And peace begins with a smile, which I also loved, which was Mother Teresa. So I thought that I would fill the book with those. I'm just looking to see how we're doing with time. Any questions? Yes, Sandy, I think we're soul sisters for sure. I think we have the same taste. I really do. But isn't that funny how we find our people? We find our people who, have the same ideas or ideals or, whatever. And maybe we find that surprising in the beginning, but maybe it's not so surprising. So I'm thinking I'm going to add this, maybe some leaves here. This is my Caran d'Ache, so I know if I get this wet, it will run these crayons. But if I'm just going to print this, maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe I want to add some color in here. And then smudge a little. So I feel like that a lot, that I find my right people and they're all around me. Like I've been very fortunate. I'm fortunate to have you guys here. I feel very lucky. So I want to do a little like this light yellow, maybe this green over top. I didn't like that hard edge, so I wanted to, soften that a little bit. Okay, let's go on. Let's see what else I can add. What else do I want to add? Right. So, Sandy, I wanted to handwrite a message too, but I also know that this is kind of wet. So I don't want to do it yet. I don't want to, first of all, don't ruin your pens. So sometimes what you can do is you can take, I meant to bring some craft paper because I thought about, some brown craft paper on here. So if I brought craft paper, I would write the sentiments on there and glue them in because I thought that would kind of look cool. Or you could get white paper or whatever you have and write them on there and glue them in. Or you could wait until after these were printed and then write them in. But you don't want to, if it's wet, you don't want to ruin your pens. And this is something, even though the paint pens are pretty good, if you get other paint on the outside of them, sometimes they clog. And you want to be careful of that and mindful of that. So I know this is still wet, so I don't want to do that with my good pens. But after this dries, I could handwrite with a marker or something like this before I have it printed. Now, I would like to darken this up a little bit. So I am going to look for a couple things. So these are my Stabilo all pencils. So let's see if, that's a little dark maybe. The black's going to be darker, so I don't know why I'm saying that. So So sometimes you can take, I don't want to take too much because I don't want to take the whole leaf off like that just did. But you can darken up with other things if you need more of a leaf, say, or you want more colors in there. You know, maybe you want just the subtle colors. Don't be afraid to, you know, I think this is probably the greatest lesson that I had ever learned. Don't be afraid to mix media. And by that, I mean paint and pencils, colored pencils, watercolor pencils, what have you. Mix them up because that sometimes does make things look really fabulous, you know. So, yeah, that pretty much comes off, but it left a little green on there. So let's see. How about if I take another sticker? I like these stickers. So how about one of these stickers on here? Right there. And then I'm looking around to see what I want to do here. So give me a bit of this and let's well, this isn't what I intended to do at all, just so you know. I intended to make these spots that I could, but let's see. I don't mind what happened there. So I intended to make little spots or dots, or what do I want to use for that? Let's see. Maybe a little bit of a brush. That's more of what I wanted to have happen. Everything is fixable. That's my new motto. Even if you don't like what happens, you can fix it. Now, those are a little bright, so I'm going to take them back by, and yes, it will smudge them, but that's okay. Maybe a little something down here. So if I want the color not as bright or to not show up as much, the baby wipe works for that. Other things we can do are take the Posca pen and add a little black. And maybe leave it like that since I'm going to write. I know I'm going to write in here. And this, I would definitely put some black down here. Maybe here. Like that. And maybe on the tape, some dots. And the front would be where I would want to put, I'm going to do the dots again. The front would be where I want to put my title maybe. So whatever I want to call this. So I think I would leave that for now. Bit like that for now. So this is our zine. You could do anything with these zines. You could write a book in these zines. You could write, a lot of people do comics in the zines, funny things, haha, whatever. You could use them as affirmation. You could use them as your journals, and you could use them. You could make small zines like this. Again, this was 14. What did I tell you? 14 by 20. I'm sorry, 11 by 14 sheet of paper. If you used a smaller sheet of paper, clearly the book would be smaller. But a lot of people use these as travel journals, and I like that idea of printing out little tiny photos from your travels and sticking them in and writing little memories in there. I think that's kind of cool. So you could pre-make something this far and bring it with you on your travels and stick things you find in there, whatever you find, tickets and stubs and pieces of map, just memories. And that's what I love about these. So there was a movement a few years ago where people were leaving pieces of art for people to find, like in parks on benches or in train stations, in, wherever, out at public places. And this would be a cool thing to do with this, with a little note. This is for, if you found this is for you. I hope this makes your day, whatever. And I thought that was a really cool idea. So now clearly so when you take these and you scan them and you print them, it's going to flatten out anyway, but you can flatten these out. It's because they've got wet. So I generally put these with some heavy books on top of them once they're dry, so that they, flatten out. So you can do that. You can see that I finagled these edges as much as I could to get them all even, but they're going to stick out. You have to get over it. You just have to get over that stuff, because it's never going to be perfect. But when you print them, usually when it's on printer paper, it will be easier for you to fold. It's not as heavy.